You're listening to this week's episode of the Vacation Rental Business in Today's World podcast. You're about to start transforming your business and life with the information found here. We interview some of the greatest and most influential minds in the vacation short-term rental industry and supporting businesses. The information found here is a combination of brain science, transformational thinking, safety and loss prevention, and vacation short-term rental knowledge and experiences, all rolled into one to help you and your business to achieve levels you never thought possible. I am glad you are here, and now please welcome your host, Eric Thibodeau.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Safer VRS. I'm Eric Thibodeau, and I'm your host. And today, just wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, I'm in Darien, Georgia. This week, I've had the pleasure of participating here in the Keystone Retreats with several other vacation rental owners and managers, and led by Matt Landau and Steve Schwab. So it's been a really good week, still enjoying it. So I apologize for the podcast coming out late this week. So last week, I was in Orlando and picked up some good information on a training class I attended. And while I had some basic understanding of some of these philosophies and what they would call, what's being called new safety or safety differently, I'm working to use that within the vacation rental industry. And what this is about is it goes off this philosophy, which hopefully makes sense, is that safety is not the prevention of accidents, but the presence of controls. So safety is not the absence of incidents or accidents, but the presence of controls. And I think we can relate to that. And what I mean by that statement is that, so if we look, vacation rental industry, at accident prevention, which is a really good topic and something we should look at, what happens when we work to prevent an accident still occurs? And let me give you an example of that. There was a property management company that they didn't know they were doing this philosophy, but they actually were. And what I mean by that is they were buying vehicles for their fleet. And when they did this, they spec'd out some pretty good vehicles, not small vehicles, not inexpensive vehicles. They bought vehicles with good safety built into it, sturdy. Of course, everything has airbags. And then now people wear seat belts and they track the vehicle through a GPS. And they put the vehicles into service. And there was, one of their drivers was driving. They were at a red light, stoplight, waiting to move forward. And then someone hit them, right? So there was an accident. So when we think about that, how did we prevent the accident? How could we have prevented that accident? We trained the driver. We purchased a great vehicle for them to help keep them safe. They're wearing their seatbelt, they're alert, and basically they still had an accident. So you look at that and say, hey, we didn't prevent that accident. We're not successful. And I would disagree with that. What we did, or what that company did, was they put in the controls needed so that when an accident occurred, and accidents will occur, incidents will occur. Why? Because people make mistakes. We're all human beings, right? In this situation too, there was a driver in this vehicle. He didn't make a mistake. He was just in his vehicle and got struck. So despite our best efforts, our employees, our workers, our teams are humans. We will make mistakes. We will be faced with incidents that even in our best situation, our best scenario, we're going to have an accident. So instead of focusing on preventing an accident, which is maybe it'll take a while to get through this, let's focus on the controls that we're employing. What can we control to keep our employees safe? And when they do have an accident or an incident occurs, that when a failure occurs, no one is seriously injured or killed, right? And this is really a different way of thinking about it. I mean, but when you take a look at this vehicle accident, everything that the company did to help prepare the driver so that they wanted to prevent the incident. but the controls they put in place were there to support the driver so that when the incident occurred, and it did, and let's say I use the word fault, there is no fault here, right? This is another thing we're going to talk about, blame. But he or she didn't do anything that would say, hey, I didn't do my best, or this occurred, right? That's not the point. The point is things will happen. And when they do happen, what controls do we have in place? So safety is not the absence of incidents. It's the presence of controls. And with that, I just wanted to also talk a little bit about how can we do that when we start a meeting, or we're having a meeting, or we're like at this retreat, it came to me, and we didn't do this here. And it's something it'd be great to employ. So once again, let's think that we're in a team meeting, we're at an offsite meeting, and how do I employ controls in that meeting around prevention of incidents or prevention of accidents, but more about the controls. So there could be situations where it's not about fault. It's really about things will happen. And when they do happen, what controls do we have in place? And so if I were looking at a meeting or offsite and we were starting, I would welcome everybody. And then I'd say, let's talk about some controls we're going to have in the event of an incident that occurs in this meeting. I would like to know, is anybody in the room first aid or CPR certified? Yes. Okay. Would you be willing to help if that need arrives? Do we know where the automatic external defibrillator, the AED is? Okay. Yes. Who will go and get help, right? Who will call 911? And then what's the location? If you're not at your office or at a place, what's the physical address? We've talked about this, like guests arriving at a property and they don't really know the address that they're at. They just know they're at this great condo or this great house and they're ready to have vacation. So when you're at your meeting, what's the address? And can you get somebody to help? If you're out of town like we are here, right, we need to understand the address, and that 911 triangulation could take, quite a bit of time. So what's the evacuation route? And who is willing to lead the people out to the evacuation point? Who is going to be willing to say, hey, will you sweep the room and the restrooms to make sure we have everybody in the event of an emergency? Who will account for everyone once we're outside? So these are all controlled, right? Before things happen, right? Because they will happen. Hopefully they don't happen at your meeting or your external site, get together, retreat. But what if it did? What controls do you have in place? It's fairly simple. We employ the controls at the beginning of the meeting. We identify, ask for volunteers, appoint people to take these actions. When you come to day 2, you do it again. Who's willing to do these activities? Maybe the same people. And what we want to do is build in control so that when something happens, because what if someone has a heart attack in the meeting? What if someone passes out for whatever reason? We can't prevent these actions or activities, but we can work to control and say, okay, I am now taking action to lessen the impact of that response to this particular incident, right? I can't prevent it. I can't stop Eric from having a heart attack or passing out, but when or if it does, and let me rephrase that, when it happens, right? I'm not saying I want to have a heart attack, everybody, but when something happens, what are the controls do I have in place to ensure, boom, Jane is calling 911. This person is going to take care of notifying the location of where we're at so they can help the emergency services to that location. These are controls to employ. And I think they work very well at meetings or at offsite meetings, where you have a large gathering. So I encourage you to think about that and take a look at employing some of these controls, or what controls do you have in place? And let's shift our thinking about accidents and saying, we're not going to be able to prevent every accident, right? I love preventing accidents. Being proactive is there. That's where I like to be. However, I also know that I can't prevent every accident from occurring. So I want to prepare you and my team and those I work with to say, I want to fail, because we will fail, right? Things will not go as we want. I want to fail to a safer state, right? Like the vehicle accident. that company did a lot to help prepare so that when it happened, when the vehicle accident happened, didn't want it to happen, but it did. And now that driver is able to be present, to continue working, to continue with their family because something failed and the controls employed allowed the injury to not be as severe and the individual was able to walk away. So safety is not the prevention of accidents, but the presence of controls. Let that soak in here over the next week or so. I'll be bringing some more information about that. I look forward to hearing from you in safervrs.com and on our Facebook pages. We'd love for you to join us. And I'm always interested in your feedback and questions, and I love to hear from you. So go out and create a safe day, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Safer VR's podcast with Eric Thibodeau. If you enjoy this, I would love you to join my Facebook group, The Safer Vacation Rentals, for more of the same. You can also join our email list at www.safervrs.com.